Chapter 562. Huh. Gu Mingming's mind went blank for a moment, and she did not manage to catch Snake's words. Snake was impatient as he frowned and said coldly, "Why aren't you looking at me anymore?" Gu Mingming blinked her eyes and said, My neck is sore, so I changed my posture to move around." Snake said, "When you move your neck, your eyes should be looking at me." Gu Mingming was taken aback as she imagined herself focusing her gaze on a point and then turning her neck. Why did she look like a possessed turtle prime minister? Seeing Gu Mingming burst out laughing, Snake's slight awkwardness also dissipated. He turned to face Gu Mingming and asked, "What are you laughing at?" Gu Mingming waved her hands and said, "Look." As she said that, she did what she imagined and then laughed out loud. Snake looked at the mischievous Gu Mingming with a layer of warmth and gentleness in his dark green and cold eyes. He said, "So ugly." Gu Mingming nodded and said, Right? It's too ugly, haha." Snake carried Gu Mingming back in his arms and said, "Even if it's ugly, you still have to look at me." Huh? Gu Mingming was taken aback. What kind of twisted obsession was this? Gu Mingming deliberately turned her head and said, "I have to look at the road when I walk and the bowl when I eat. How can I always look at you?" Snake raised his head and said, "I will carry you when we walk and feed you when we eat. Your eyes just have to look at me." Gu Mingming asked why. Snake said, "Just now, you were the one who stared at me first." Gu Mingming thought for a moment and said, "Of course I have to look at you when I talk to you." Snake said, "Then why did you stop looking at me halfway?" Gu Mingming, "What do you mean by halfway?" "My neck is getting sore from looking at you acting like a statue all the time." Snake said in a commanding tone, "Look at me, I will allow it. But you're not allowed to stop looking halfway." He had thought that she was so entranced because the back of his head was particularly attractive, so he maintained his posture and did not dare to move for her to see. But this girl actually stopped looking halfway? Aggrieved, too aggrieved. The Snake King could not take this lying down. Gu Mingming shook her head helplessly. Sometimes it was really difficult to communicate with people who were too different in age, especially those who were thousands of years apart. That was simply a gulf. A gulf. Do you understand? Snake, stop right there and speak clearly. That pile of sh*t, Wabi finally came down from the tree and chased after them. She took 2 quick steps and stood in front of Snake, pointing at him. "What did you say just now if she falls asleep? What are you going to do to me?" Snake was displeased and didn't like people disturbing his time with Gu Mingming. He ignored Wabi and just carried Gu Mingming away. Snake, long snake, Mingming, snake. "Come, let's have a good fight today and see who will be the one to throw who out of the Snake King Valley." Gu Mingming, goo snake. S saying, "Snake Gu Mingming." Gu Mingming could not understand the situation and answered instinctively, "I can't feel the beast pressure either." Snake seemed to be relieved. He pressed the back of Gu Mingming's head with his hand and placed her little face on his shoulder. He whispered into her ear, "If you feel uncomfortable, you have to tell me." Gu Mingming nodded. Chapter 563. Gu Mingming could not help but moan softly. Then the world became very quiet. Even the wind did not dare to blow the leaves. "What's wrong?" Snake lifted Gu Mingming's chin gently and scrutinized her slightly pale face. He frowned and felt a tightness in his chest. Looking at that pile of sh*t, he felt more and more irritated. He snapped, "Didn't you say you could not feel the beast pressure?" Gu Mingming shook her head helplessly. "Are you releasing your beast pressure? I thought you were going to destroy the earth." Snake was amused by Gu Mingming's words. He glanced at Wabi, who was paralyzed on the ground. He ignored him and walked away. Gu Mingming was a little worried. Snake stopped and looked at Gu Mingming seriously. "Do you want to eat snakes?" Gu Mingming shook her head. No. Snake felt a little regretful. He turned back to look at Wabi. "The peak of 5th level. It should be very nourishing." Gu Mingming smiled embarrassedly. "I am weak and have little luck. I can't handle such nourishment." Snake did not comment. He nodded and carried Gu Mingming back into the cave. The next few days could be considered to be peaceful. Wabi seemed to have been shaken quite badly that time. Hence, He did not appear at Snake's cave for a few days. The food that Leah made would be delivered to Snake's cave by the little snakes. Every day, there would be different kinds of food. Everything was very exquisite. Gu Mingming knew that Leah was using this method to tell her that he and Elvis were fine and there was no need to worry. But as for the little wolves, she wondered how they were doing now. Snake said that Ellie did not dare to go against the Snake King's words. This was the innate nature of their race. She did not know whether it was true or not, but she did not dare to pester him any further. She could only convince herself that Snake would not lie to her. About half a month passed. Gu Mingming thought that Snake would let her and Elvis leave with the little wolves once he was sick of it. But this fellow became more and more clingy. When she slept, he would sit beside her and watch. When she ate, he would sit beside her and watch. Even when she was defecating, he sat nearby and watched. Sometimes, when Gu Mingming was really bored, she would throw small stones at each other for fun. She would throw one out and use the other to hit the stone that was thrown out first. Regardless of whether she could hit it or not, she would chase after it to pick it up and throw it again. Snake was also watching this boring game from the side, and he was enjoying it very much. The one who broke Snake's way of life of viewing Gu Mingming as a VR projection was the revived Wabi-Ai. This time, he did not challenge Snake. "Hey, little female, are you the new sacred maiden of the Snake King Valley?" Gu Mingming pointed at her own nose and looked at Wabi-Ai. "Saintess? Me?" Wabi-Ai nodded and said, "I heard that you replaced Ellie and became the most respected female in the Snake King Valley." Gu Mingming turned to look at Snake awkwardly and said, "Really? Why haven't I heard of this before?" Snake went forward and hugged Gu Mingming in his arms. His gaze was sinister and unpredictable. He said, "My female is naturally the most respected. Not just the Snake King Valley. There is no other female more respected than you in the entire beast world." Gu Mingming sighed and said, "Great King, can you stop fooling around? At your age, not to mention being my grandfather, you can even be my ancestor. I don't dare to claim connections with you." Chapter 564. Gu Mingming shrank her neck and did not have the guts to say, "You are so smart." She laughed awkwardly and said, "I am not from the Snake tribe. It is not good to make me a saintess, right?" Snake raised his brows and said, "Why is my female not from the Snake tribe?" Gu Mingming's face fell and she said, "Great King, you should know your limits when joking. I'm a married woman. You will be punished by the heavens for teasing me like this." Snakel chuckled and said, "What kind of divine punishment? Will it be lightning from the sky or fire from the god of fire? Or else cut open my chest and take out my gallbladder?" Gu Mingming twitched her lips and let out a disdainful. She thought to herself, "I have been waiting for you to release me from the Snake King Valley as an old palace maid when you pardon the world. If I become a saintess, would I still be able to leave? I'm not a fool if I don't do it." Wabi-Ai walked forward and placed his arm over Gu Mingming's shoulder. He smiled and said, "I am younger than him by a full 200 years. Although I am not as powerful as him now, I can't guarantee that I will improve by leaps and bounds after a few rounds of dual cultivation with you. When that time comes, I will replace him as the Snake King and ensure that your position as a saintess will last for generations to come. How about that?" Gu Mingming was disgusted, and she stared at that pile of sh*t with a look of disdain. Snake's face darkened to the extreme, and he really wanted to just release his beast pressure and squash Wabi-Ai to death. But thinking of her pale and uncomfortable face the previous time, Snake forced himself to bear with it. He only reached out one hand and grabbed Wabi-Ai's wrist, twisting his hand behind his back in an anti-ergonomic way. He said in a cold voice, "I told you before, Tuming hates snakes, hates sh*t, hates snakes that look like sh*t. You still dare to use your dirty hand to touch her. What if you hurt her?" Although Wabi-Ai was a snake, the distribution of his bones in human form was not much different from humans. So Snake's hair was still very painful for him. But with his ability to withstand blows from battling with Snake for the past 800 years, this level of pain was probably just a joke. So he did not care much and continued grumbling, "Sigh, Don't the Snake King Valley Saints always choose powerful males to help them break through the third-level boundary? Why can't I touch Tu Ming? The veins on Snake's forehead popped out and his temples throbbed. His pupils darkened at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as if his green pupils were filled with poison. Just one look from him was enough to kill you. Tu Ming is my special title. Are you even worthy of calling me that? As Snake spoke, he threw away Wabi-Eye's arm and turned to clamp down on his jaw, forcing his mouth open and reaching for his tongue. Wabi-Eye was a snake and had the nature of snake. After fighting with Snake for 800 years, Wabi-Eye was probably even clearer than Snake himself about when Snake was just entertaining himself and when he was really killing in rage. He knew that Snake was really angry now. If he did not use his trump card, he might really die in Snake's hands. So he suddenly transformed into a giant python and used to change his body size to break free from Snake's restraint. Then, with lightning speed, he attacked Snake first to gain the upper hand. Snake laughed coldly. Gu Mingming could even faintly see his hair fluttering in the wind. It was the kind of entrance scene of a martial arts leader. Chapter 565. Gu Mingming stealthily took a step back, then another, then Snake found out. With a flick of his snake tail, Snake threw Wabi-Eye far away. As he sprinted towards Gu Mingming, he transformed into his human form. By the time he reached Gu Mingming, he was already that perfect and flawless snake. His dark green eyes glowed with a faint light, clearly still angry. He wrapped his arms around Gu Mingming's waist and didn't grab her wrist, because he knew that he might not be able to control his strength precisely after the battle. Her wrist was so thin, if he exerted even a little force, it would break. Although she would look good breaking her wrist, the process might be a little painful. He didn't like it when she was in pain, hurt, frowning, and despondent, and even more so when she was deep in thought. She wasn't thinking about him. Where to? Especially when he didn't like the way she always gave off the feeling that she wanted to leave his side. Was she the same as that woman? She desperately wanted to return to that world, while Gu Mingming desperately wanted to return to her partners and children. Why couldn't they return to him? The dangerous aura emanating from Snake was too strong. Looking at the almost crippled Wabi-Eye behind him, who would dare to defy him at this moment? Gu Mingming gave a timid smile and said, I saw that the two of you were having a good time sparring, so I made some space for you. Oh, Snake laughed coldly and asked, where do you intend to make space for yourself? Gu Mingming kept quiet. She didn't have the courage to say, of course, the further the better. Snake's head tilted 45 degrees downwards, his gaze unfathomable as he looked at Wabi-Eye, who was struggling to move. Don't worry, with me around, no one can hurt you, and no one can touch you. Yes, 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 yes. Gu Mingming smiled apologetically. Seeing Wabi-Eye on the verge of death yet still fuming, she broke out in cold sweat. Once a person was nervous, their stomach would hurt. That twisting pain instantly made Gu Mingming unable to straighten her back. F***K. She was becoming more and more terrified. She was just watching others fight, and she was already so scared at the start. Gu Mingming cursed herself in her heart while shaking her head helplessly. But, why did this feel so familiar? Gu Mingming lowered her head, instantly dumbfounded. His face first turned pale, then red, matching the color of the blood flowing down from between his legs. Aunt, you really are my dear aunt. No matter where I am, your concern is always so. It's impossible to ignore. Snake felt something in his body stirring restlessly, and the closer he got to Gu Mingming, the more obvious it became. When the blood between her legs trickled down, the crimson color instantly stung his eyes. Damn it! Did he accidentally injure her when he was fighting with Wabi-Eye? He was already guarding against Wabi-Eye from getting close to her. Was she the one who injured him? I was too focused and accidentally bumped into it. Snake's face was ghastly pale, and he wanted to lift Gu Mingming's dress. Gu Mingming was shocked. She covered her dress with both hands and said, what are you doing? Check the wound. Snake replied with a frown. Gu Mingming blushed and stuttered. She tried her best to protect her dress and said, that. I'm fine, I'm really fine. Don't lift my dress. You will be punished for teasing a married woman." Snake gritted his teeth and said coldly, "I am not afraid." Chapter 566. Huh. Snakel sneered and ignored Ming's resistance. He directly carried her up and walked like the wind. He did not look at Ming again and only said coldly, "You look for Elvis when you're sad and Leah when you're injured. Then when will you think of looking for me?" Ming was completely dumbfounded. She had been breastfeeding after giving birth, so her period had not come. Later on, the children were given complimentary foods, but they were not really weaned. She would always squeeze out some milk for the children to drink once a day to supplement their nutrition. The real weaning of the wolf pups was when she participated in that beauty pageant. Maybe it was because she was too busy and messed up her biological clock, so Great Aunt did not come. She had almost forgotten about this matter. Who knew that it would make such a grand and dazzling appearance today? But it was just Great Aunt. Why was Snake so angry as if he had been cuckolded? Before Ming could understand what was going on, Snake had already brought her back to the cave. There was a bee skin laid on the ground, and he placed her on it. His pupils were in a vertical state with only a slit. She could not tell how angry he was. Ming also could not figure out why Snake was so angry. Was it because she wanted to see Leah because of her period, or because Wabi Eye's challenge today had angered him? This Wabi Eye was in a state where he would challenge anyone he could move for the past 800 years. Ming felt that it was unlikely that he could come up with any new tricks to anger Snake. Was it because she wanted to see Leah? Was there need to be so angry? That Ming carefully broke the silence. Snake turned around with a sharp gaze. Seeing Ming shrinking her neck in fright, he turned his head away again. He felt aggrieved and his chest was burning, but his tone was much gentler. "Later on, when you don't bleed so much, I'll feed you some of my blood to replenish your energy." Ming smiled stiffly. "Great King, have you forgotten? Your blood is highly toxic and does not have the same effect as the black chicken white phoenix pill." Snake glanced sideways. His pupils were thicker than before. Maybe he was not so angry anymore. "You have the antibodies in your body, and I will detoxify you. It's only nourishing, it's not fatal," Snake said. "Do you know how many people dream of obtaining the blood of the Beast King?" Ming looked at Snake's "you wicked slave, hurry up and thank me" expression and was at a loss for words. She hesitated for a moment before continuing, "I'm just having my period. I don't think there's a need to supplement me like this, right?" "Great Aunt." Snake frowned, and his face froze for a moment. Then he suddenly recalled the relevant scenes of his mother beast in heat from the depths of his memory. Awkward, Ming could almost see crows flying over Snake's head. Snake cleared his throat and said, "Female estrus is an important matter. Also needs to be replenished." With that, he stood up abruptly and paced around on the spot. Then he walked back and looked at Ming condescendingly. He said sternly, "Looking for Leah the moment you're in heat. Are you in a hurry to mate?" Ming held her forehead and said, "Leah knows how to make sanitary pads." "I want sanitary pads." Snake was stunned again and did not say anything. He just turned around and walked out. You can't blame him. You really can't blame him. Chapter 567. Snake raised his head and shot a look at the colorful snakes guarding the entrance. Immediately, a few little snakes slithered out. Not long after, Leo was brought over with a huge pot in his hands. Even from afar, Ming could smell a gingery scent. Lee's state did not seem like he was being imprisoned by someone at all. Instead, he looked like someone who cooked a pot of soup at the entrance of the cave and then brought it in. Snake knew that Ming was afraid of the cold, different from him. So even if the fire would dry out the cave and make him uncomfortable, he still kept the fire burning for 24 hours. So after Leah came in, he placed the pot on the fire pile with ease. Then he said as he fiddled with it, "Here, this is the only dish that Elvis can bring out. You haven't had it since your confinement, right?" Ming's heart warmed. Even if it was just boiling ginger slices in water, Elvis's strict requirements for the thickness of the ginger slices were always the same. In order to cook the taste that she had praised, He was almost to the point of nitpicking. Her heart was always warm. "There's ginger here." Gu Mingming took over the small bowl that Leah handed to her. She took a sip and sighed, "I'm alive again." Leah smiled gently and rubbed Gu Mingming's little head gently. Then, he turned to look at Snake and asked, "Can I hunt here?" Snake frowned and said, "Didn't I provide all the food for you? If you're not full, then go hungry. Settle Tuming's matter first. She wants her sanitary pad. Hurry and hand it over. Don't force me to do it." Leah held back his laughter and glanced sideways at Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming looked back at Leah with an expression of, "I know how speechless you are." Leah replied with an expression of, "You still understand me." The two of them did not say a word and just looked at each other with a faint smile. But they could read the meaning in each other's eyes. Snake felt frustrated for no reason. This was the reason why he did not allow Gu Mingming to see Elvis and Leah. There seemed to be a strange atmosphere between them, isolating him from them. Snake's face turned cold, and he said, "I don't want to kill you on Tuming's account, but my patience is limited. Hurry up and hand over the sanitary pad and get lost." Leah sighed, as if he was not afraid of Snake in the slightest. He clicked his tongue and said, "Every time you send the prey here, they are all minced into pieces. Those bee skins can't even be used anymore. I need fresh, clean, and soft animal skin to make a sanitary pad for Meng Meng. So please allow me to hunt here." Snake waved his hand impatiently and said, "Up to you. Get lost. I already want to kill someone." Leah shrugged his shoulders helplessly and said, "If you want Meng Meng to accept you, you have to get used to getting along with me and Elvis. Meng Meng cares a lot about her family. If you always show that you will hurt her family, she will not like you." The veins on Snake's forehead throbbed as he stared at Leah with narrowed eyes. Snake did not release his aura, but Leah, who was under the hierarchy, could not help but feel a chill down his spine. Then Leah turned around and ran, directly burrowing into Gu Mingming's arms. In his half-orc form, he curled up behind Gu Mingming, wrapping his furry big tail around Gu Mingming's waist. He peeked out half his head from Gu Mingming's shoulder and complained pitifully, "Sob, sob, sob. Meng Meng, I'm so scared." Aside from the topic, author, Leah, you are after all the great witch doctor of Saint Nazir, the ninth highness of Sauter. Can you have some face? Where's your pride? Where's your pride? Leah sneered. Want face in front of Meng Meng? Want pride? Want pride? Are you stupid, or am I stupid? Chapter 568. Snake paused, feeling as if he was being framed. Gu Mingming couldn't help but laugh at Snake's infuriated look. She shook her head and sighed. Leah has always been timid. Don't scare him. As Gu Mingming said, she pulled Leah into her arms from behind and patted his back lightly. You drama queen, stop acting. Snake won't really do anything to you." Leah felt extremely comfortable being coaxed by Gu Mingming. He squinted his eyes at Snake, his sly smile carrying a hint of provocation and complacency. Seeing how Snake's green eyes were about to spit fire, his mood was exceptionally good. Raising his head, he kissed Gu Mingming's little chin, then stood up and gently hugged Gu Mingming in his arms, saying, "All right, I'll listen to you. I won't fool around anymore." Lee's hugs were always gentle and warm. Gu Mingming hugged Leah back, then asked, "Is your body okay? Can you hunt?" Gu Mingming knew that although Snake had no intention of taking Elvis and Lee's lives, he still used snake venom on them to weaken their bodies just in case, so that they could not escape with Gu Mingming. Leah raised his brows, gently hooked Gu Mingming's chin, and said with slight anger, "In your heart, am I so weak that I can't even deal with a mere wild beast?" Gu Mingming smiled in a fawning manner, saying, No, I'm just worried about you." Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little nose and shook it lightly, saying, "Don't worry blindly. Lie down and wait for me to come back. Don't move. If I come back later and see this place like a slaughterhouse, I won't let you off, understand?" Gu Mingming nodded, saying yes. Leah hugged Gu Mingming for a while more before standing up to walk out. When he passed by Snake, he gave him a bright smile and said plainly, "In the future, you must get along well with Elvis and me, okay? Or else, You will be the one at a disadvantage because Mengming's heart is biased towards us. All the best. Snake just clenched his fists, his body stiff as he stared at Leah, swishing his big tail as he walked out of the cave step by step. Gu Mengming chuckled. Stop staring. He's just like that. I mean no harm. Snake turned around and looked at Gu Mengming. He threatened you. Gu Mengming blinked her eyes and looked at Snake as if she had lost her memory. Snake stepped forward and said, He said he won't let you off. Why aren't you angry? Gu Mengming smiled sweetly. Why should I be angry? Snake's face was cold as he said, Every time I threaten you to eat them up, you always argue with me. Gu Mengming said, How can that be the same? What Leah meant by not letting me off was probably that he would not allow me to move around before my period ended. I would have to lie on the bed for 7 whole days. Life was hopeless. What difference was there between me and a salted fish? But I know that his punishments are carried out on the basis of loving me and protecting me. He and Elvis would never do anything to make me sad. Snake frowned and asked, If I really eat them, will you be sad? Gu Mengming kept her smile and said seriously, My family is my life. I will fight to the death with anyone who dares to touch my family. Chapter 569. Gu Mengming chuckled and asked, Then do you want to be my grandfather or great-grandfather? Snake's face was cold. The atmosphere was instantly destroyed by Gu Mengming, but for some reason, he did not feel angry. Instead, he felt that this little girl who always talked back and found trouble with him was extremely pleasing to the eye even when she was mocking him. Snorting, Snake used a gentle tone that even he could not understand and said, Are you talking about my age again? Gu Mengming did not deny it and just smiled. I have no choice. You are too perfect in other aspects. This is the only thing I can use to attack you. Perfect? Snake's eyes were fixed on Gu Mengming, and he was momentarily dazed. His life was so long, boring, and unbearable. He did not know how others saw him because he felt that all the lives in this world were too boring, and too mediocre. But he himself knew how much he hated himself, and how much he wished that he could disappear. But what could he do? There was actually no one in this world who could kill him day after day of anticipating death. Even his hatred towards this life was slowly being erased. But she said, he was perfect? What kind of expression is that? Gu Mengming gave a look of disdain. Don't tell me that, this is not the life I want. I will beat you up. Snake chuckled. You can't beat me. Gu Mengming raised her head and said indignantly, Who said that? I am the mighty messenger of the beast deity. Snake mimicked Leah and rubbed Gu Mengming's little head. The corners of his lips curled up. Yeah, it did feel good. Meeting her proud and clear big eyes, Snake said calmly, There are 2 messengers of the beast deity, but the beast king is only me. Gu Mengming smacked her lips. See, you're showing off your perfect life again. Sigh. All right. Mighty beast king, you are the most honorable. Snake seemed to be deliberately teasing Gu Mengming. He tilted his head and looked at her with disdain. He said word by word, This is not the life I want. Gu Mengming waved her fist and punched Snake's chest. With a face full of anger and laughter, she said, Sai, do you know that you are really annoying like this? Snake smiled and asked why. Gu Mengming said, Do you know about celebrities? Snake nodded. In his memory, the mother beast had mentioned it to his father and other partners when she was reminiscing about the past countless times. Gu Mengming continued, In this world, there's a type of people called the second generation of celebrities. Because their parents are celebrities, they receive the attention of others the moment they are born and enjoy all kinds of privileges. Entering the entertainment industry was also an illusion of having deep connections, green lights, and lightning flashes along the way. Then, when you were earning money that some people couldn't even earn in their entire lives, while counting the money, you would say, this isn't the life I wanted at all. I hope everyone remembers me because of my hard work, and not because I'm XXX's son or daughter. If not for your parents being famous, who do you think you are? It's the most disgusting to take advantage of someone and still act like a loser. Snake did not quite understand. He tilted his head and looked at Gu Mengming. I'm not a celebrity. Chapter 570. Blessed by nature, Snake toyed with Gu Mingming's adjective. Gu Mingming nodded and said, "Of course. Do you know? No one dared to provoke my hubby before he mated. After he mated, he immediately rose to the 4th level. Yeah, the 4th level might not be much in your eyes, but it's already very impressive outside. Do you understand?" Snake laughed in disdain. The 4th level was considered trash? Gu Mingming rolled her eyes at Snake in disdain and continued. When I was trapped in solder by coal, my hubby, a 4th level beast, led Leah, a 3rd level beast, and the warriors in the tribe to fight with Cole and the rest. Sigh. Solder had a total of 3 5th level beasts. In the end, they were still beaten down by my hubby. Moreover, my hubby even leveled up during the battle. Although he did not say it, I know that it was not easy to level up. I don't know how many times he was on the brink of death, how many times he clenched his teeth, and how many times he crawled out from a pile of corpses to level up. Snake laughed coldly and said, "If he couldn't handle it, it only proves that he was too weak." Gu Mingming hissed and looked at Snake in dissatisfaction. Snake shrugged and said, "He was originally weak. Not to mention me, he couldn't even defeat Wabi-Ai." Gu Mingming pouted and said, "That's because you poisoned him." Snake did not feel that there was a problem at all and answered honestly, he couldn't resist the poison because he didn't have the ability. Gu Mingming clenched her teeth and really wanted to bite Snake to death. But thinking of the poison in his body, Gu Mingming held back. Smacking her lips, Gu Mingming continued, "I wanted to praise you, but you don't look like you need it. Forget it. I won't talk to you anymore in case I die of anger." Snake was taken aback. He cleared his throat, and his gaze drifted to the side. With a guilty look, he said, "He can't defeat Wabi-Ai because Wabi-Ai is too strong, not because he is too weak. After all, Wabi-Ai is an opponent that I personally trained for 800 years. If he were to be placed outside, no one would be able to defeat him." Trained, when Gu Mingming heard this keyword, her body could not help but tremble. She suddenly felt like laughing, and her eyes lit up. Oh, no wonder Wabi-Ai wanted Snake to give him an explanation the moment he saw her. Just thinking about it makes me a little excited. The image, was probably matcha-flavored poop? Gu Mingming twitched her lips, her interest instantly waning, and she did not continue thinking about it. So, Snake looked at Gu Mingming from the corner of his eye, his expression saying, "Come and flatter me." Gu Mingming chuckled. As a reward for her wild imagination, Gu Mingming nodded her head and continued, "But my hubby is so valiant, majestic, brave, and extraordinary." Gu Mingming wanted to use a few more adjectives, but when she saw the increasingly impatient expression on Snake's face, she held back and continued, "Males can't even take one blow from you. Tell me, if you aren't blessed by the heavens, then what are you? You're like a pay-to-win warrior in a game. Not only do you have top-notch equipment and an awesome ID, but you also have a cheat code." Snake's smile stiffened as he listened. Although he did not understand a lot of the words, but were they praising him? Why did it sound so awkward? Looking at her serious face, she did not look like she was fooling him, but the more he listened, the more he felt something was wrong. Chapter 571. Snake did not look back at Gu Ming's words, because Leah had already returned. He knew that Lee's last action at the door was a demonstration to him. He had never cared about this kind of opportunistic demonstration and provocation in the past 1,000 years. But this time, he clearly learned his lesson, because he said, "In the future, you must get along well with Elvis and me, or else you will be the one at a disadvantage, because Gu Ming's heart is biased towards us." In the future, this life that was going to be so long seemed to have become less terrible because of this word. Tuming's heart was always biased towards them. Then did that mean that he was at least in her heart? Although he felt depressed that he was not the one being biased towards, but at the same time, he also felt a little good she already had him in her heart, right? Even her partner and beast pet could tell, but she did not notice at all. She even asked him if he wanted to be a grandfather or a great-grandfather. Idiot. He was blessed by the heavens above. Leah held a few pieces of tanned beast skin in his hands, which carried a faint smell of blood. It was not strong and could not cover up the sweet arousal smell on Gu Meng's body, but it still could not escape Snake's sensitive nose. Frowning, Snake expressed his dissatisfaction towards the piece of bee skin in Li's hands. How could there be other smells on Toming's body? That was a stain. Leah sneered and said, "You also know that your prey in the Snake King Valley is not up to standard? My Gu Meng has never used such a low-quality sanitary pad before." Leah swayed his tail exaggeratedly and walked to sit in front of Gu Meng with his legs crossed. He then turned back to look at Snake and said, "If it's convenient, call Elvis over. Gu Meng's stomach is not feeling well now and needs a warm hug." Snake's pupils turned vertical and revealed a murderous aura. His body was cold and could never be warmed up. He did not feel anything in the past, but now it had become a weakness that he could not mention. Ever since Gu Meng fell sick the last time, Leah had unintentionally said, "Your body is too cold and will worsen Gu Meng's condition." After that, he did not dare to hug Gu Meng in the cave anymore. Every night, he would sit not far away and watch her sleep. Even though he knew that there were colorful snakes guarding the door, he didn't dare to close his eyes for fear that someone would steal her away while he was asleep. If she was in his arms, he would be able to sleep peacefully, but his body was too cold. So every morning, he would pull Gu Meng out of the cave to play. He clearly liked the shade, but he purposely exposed himself to the sun. He only dared to hug her in his arms when his body had warmed up. Every single cell in his body was screaming in discomfort, but he was, damn it, enjoying this feeling. Now, this damn fox actually dared to use this matter to provoke him. Clenching his fists, he glared at the fox, who was laughing recklessly. The venom on his fangs had already begun to secrete, but that damned fox still had a look of, "I like it when you can't stand me and can't kill me" on his face. Be nice to each other, her heart is biased towards us. Snake deeply felt that his dignity as a beast king was being trampled on. He was furious and wanted to kill someone, but what resonated with him was actually a warm current spreading from his chest that had been sealed in ice for thousands of years. Chapter 572. Before Elvis entered the cave, he already felt a wave of heat. Although the poison in his body made him weak, but if he was facing Gu Meng, he still had the strength to do some things. Elvis smiled helplessly. He could only see her in this cowardly state of a prisoner. But the moment he smelled her fragrance, his mind was filled with scenes of them touching each other's ears and temples. After entering the cave, he realized that the scene was a little strange. Leah sat cross-legged beside Gu Meng, looking at Snake with the, sneaky expression. Snake's murderous aura made Li's hair stand on end, but Leah acted as if he could not feel it. That furry tail of his swaying was clearly a very normal action, but when combined with the atmosphere, it felt like he was provoking Snake no matter how one looked at it. Gu Meng's expression did not look too good. Lying on the bee skin, she smiled when she saw Elvis. She called out weakly, "Hubby." Elvis's heart melted into a puddle of water. Not seeing her for the past few days, the suffocating and maniacal feeling of wanting to destroy everything was shattered by her calling him hubby. Taking 2 steps forward, he hugged Gu Meng in his arms. "Are you feeling uncomfortable again?" Gu Meng nodded. Feeling a little wronged, she said coquettishly, "At the start, I only felt a little stomach ache, but now, I don't even feel like saying anything." Elvis kissed Gu Meng's forehead. "It's all right. Don't say anything if you don't feel like it. I will accompany you." Gu Meng nodded and nestled in Elvis's arms. Elvis turned back to look at Leah. "Where's the sanitary pad? Why didn't you pat it for her?" Leah shrugged. Meng doesn't allow me to lift her skirt." With that, Leah turned back to look at Snake with a grin. Meng said she wouldn't let him lift it either. The veins on Snake's forehead twitched as he calculated the chances of him rushing over and swallowing this damn fox in one gulp before framing Elvis. Elvis chuckled. Even if he was such a useless hubby, he still felt blissful to be given such a unique reliance by her. Reaching under Gu Meng's skirt, Elvis smiled in understanding. He turned back to look at Leah, then at Snake, asking, "Snakes, shouldn't there be snake sloughs?" Snake nodded his head in reply. Elvis continued, I heard that the snake's skin is light and breathable, very suitable for females to make clothes. Snake nodded again. Actually, he had long wanted to use his snake skin to make a set of clothes for Gu Mingming. But he knew that she was afraid of snakes, so he avoided showing his original form in front of her as much as possible. When he was angered by Wabi Ai and could not help but transform into his original form to teach him a lesson, Snake did not even dare to look her in the eye, afraid that he would see repulsion and disgust in her eyes. So he had been restraining himself from using his snake skin to make clothes for Gu Mingming, even though he believed she would look very beautiful in it. Elvis nodded his head and said, There are so many snakes in your Snake King Valley. Can you find me 2 snake sloughs? About this wide will do. Snake looked at Elvis's measurements and frowned. Without saying a word, he turned around and walked out. Chapter 573. Seeing that Snake had walked far away, Gu Mingming grumbled softly. How can I bring it up? Didn't I get poisoned after biting Snake the other time? When Snake brought me to the waterfall to have my stomach pumped, my underwear was washed away by the water. I wanted to look for you, but Snake did not give me a chance at all. What should I do? I'm also in despair. I can't possibly tell Snake, Hi man, please give me 2 pieces of bee skin. I want to make underwear. Elvis felt deeply guilty and hugged Gu Mingming. I'm sorry, Xiaoming. It's all because I was too weak and could not protect you properly. I am clearly the first partner, but I could not protect your position in the family. I have let you suffer. Gu Mingming was stunned. You can't be suspecting me of having an affair with Snake at such a time? Elvis remained silent for a moment. I heard some snake beasts say that Snake announced to the public that you were his female. Gu Mingming face-bombed. He was just lonely for too long and needed to grab onto something to escape his loneliness. In his eyes, I'm probably no different from Pet Dog. He might like me, but it is definitely not the kind of like you're talking about. Do you know? He was so exaggerated. He actually made me the saintess of the Snake King Valley. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances. As the Snake King Valley was relatively closed off, outsiders did not know much about their internal hierarchy. Gu Mingming continued, Do you know what a saintess is? Elvis shook his head. Gu Mingming said, It sounds nice, she is called a saintess. It is actually a public level-up device. In the Snake King Valley, she chooses the stronger ones to mate with, allowing the males to level up so as to raise the strength of the Snake King Valley. What's the difference between this and a prostitute for officials? Elvis and Lee's faces turned cold, their eyes almost popping out of their sockets. They thought that although Snake was a little overbearing, he was at least sincere towards Gu Mingming. But Elvis hugged Gu Mingming tightly in his arms. Let me bring you away. Gu Mingming looked up, the poison in your body. Elvis smiled, gently caressing Gu Mingming's little face. Even if I have to risk my life, I will not let you suffer such grievances. Gu Mingming wanted to explain that although Snake had made her a saintess, he did not allow anyone to bully her. She said this to prove that Snake did not have that kind of feelings for her. But, Elvis and Leah seemed to have misunderstood. Gu Mingming patted Elvis's chest and said, Hubby, things are not what you think. Elvis frowned and said, Don't be afraid. I'm here. With that, Elvis placed the sanitary pad that Leah had made between Gu Mingming's legs and told her to clamp it properly. Then he lifted her up and walked towards the entrance of the cave step by step. The colorful snake blocked the entrance of the cave tightly, hissing and raising its upper body to warn Elvis and Leah. However, Elvis and Leah were not afraid at all. They walked forward step by step, and just as they were about to step into the pile of snakes, the colorful snakes suddenly quietened down and retreated to the sides. Elvis looked up and stared straight at Snake, who was standing at the entrance of the cave. He did not retreat at all. Even if there was a huge disparity in strength, he would never let Xiaoming suffer just because he was afraid of death. Snake was holding a snake skin in his hands. That was the first complete snake skin he shed. It was the most suitable size that Elvis had measured, and it was also the softest and cleanest. That was a precious snake skin that every snake could only shed once in its life, and it was to be given to its own female as a token of love. Chapter 574. Elvis bared his teeth with a murderous gaze. Leah appeared slightly calmer as he took a small step forward. Gu Mingming did not have the tacit understanding between Elvis and Leah, but she understood what they meant. Leah held Snake back, even if it was just for a second. Elvis carried Gu Mingming and ran. Snake did not seem to notice Elvis and Lee's obvious desire to fight. He just took a step forward and stood closer to Gu Mingming. With a cold expression, he said, "Say that you are not trying to escape secretly when I'm not around. No matter what others say. As long as you explain, I will believe you." What did others say? Who? Gu Mingming lowered her head to look at the unbelievably docile, colorful snakes surrounding Snake's feet and understood. She did not understand snake language, but it was obvious that these fellows had already repeated everything she had said to Elvis and the rest. From an objective point of view, Elvis was obviously carrying her and escaping. Under such circumstances, he still said that as long as she said no, he would believe her. Gu Mingming sighed helplessly. "I don't want to be a saintess." Snake was taken aback. He thought that Gu Mingming would stiffen her neck and tell the truth or obediently go along with him. No matter what, he was prepared to deal with it. But she didn't want to be the holy maiden. Snake looked at Gu Mingming without saying a word. Gu Mingming said, "Being a saintess is too miserable. If you force me to be a saintess, then even if Elvis and Leah are not around, I will still crawl away." Snake frowned. Crawling away? Did she really have to leave him? Gu Mingming turned her little face away and said, "But if you can take back your order and not let me be that damned saintess, then I won't run anymore." A dim light flashed across Snake's eyes, as if the world in front of him suddenly had an exit. He looked at Gu Mingming with uncertainty and asked, "If I don't let you become a saintess, you won't run away?" Gu Mingming nodded and said, "I originally came here to save my son. Now that I haven't even seen my son's shadow, why should I run? If I run away, wouldn't I have come here for nothing? Do you think it's easy for me to enter the Snake King Valley? Was it fun to fall from the sky? When I was in modern times, I didn't even ride a roller coaster. If I fall again, I might have a heart attack and die in midair." Snake's chest suddenly relaxed, and his gaze became much gentler. She was clearly the one in the wrong, and yet she still looked so righteous. But why did she look so pleasing to the eye? She didn't run away because she hated him. She just didn't want to be the Holy Virgin. That's all. Snake walked forward slowly and released his beast pressure at the same time as he passed by Elvis and Leah. He controlled the amount of beast pressure extremely well, pressuring Elvis and Leah to the ground in a second, but not causing Gu Mingming to feel that the world was shaking and everything was double. As Elvis's body went limp, Snake caught hold of Gu Mingming steadily and held her in his arms. "I just came back from outside, and my body is warmed up." This sentence seemed to be an explanation to Leah. Carrying Gu Mingming to sit by the fire, he wanted to slow down the speed at which his body cooled down so that he could hug her a little longer. Looking at her fiery eyes, Snake was extremely gentle and said, "I made you a saintess because I was afraid that you would be bullied in the Snake King Valley. After all, the saintess is the person with the highest status in the entire Snake King Valley other than me. But I didn't know that the so-called saintess was actually like this." Aside from the topic. Chapter 575. Actually, I have already announced to the entire Snake King Valley that from today onwards, the saintess of the Snake King Valley is a sacred and inviolable presence. No snake beast is allowed to offend her, and she is no longer a level-up tool. But if you really don't like the title of saintess, you don't have to do it. With me around, no snake would dare to bully you. Snakel hugged Gu Mingming tightly while his body temperature was still warm. Then he placed her back beside the fire reluctantly and stepped back a distance away. "Next time, just tell me directly what you like or dislike. Running away is not a good way to express it." Snake hesitated for a moment before slowly taking out his snake skin from behind him. "Do you want this?" He no longer dared to force what he thought was good on her. It seemed like the experience passed down by his father was not suitable for Gu Mingming. Surprise and whatnot. It was indeed nonsense. Gu Mingming's eyes widened as she took the snake skin from Snake's hands in surprise. She exclaimed in admiration. This is a snake skin. It looks like a super high-grade cloth. It feels so good, so delicate and soft. The tips of Snake's ears turned slightly red. She said she liked his snake skin. Gu Mingming pursed her lips and smiled. Since you have already given me a present, I will not argue with you about the Saintess. But can you not bully my hubby in the future? You're a beast king. How can you bully the weak? Snake stared coldly at Elvis and Leah, who were struggling to get up from the ground. He sneered. He has the nerve to be so weak. What do I have to be embarrassed about? Gu Mingming choked. She forgot. This was the beast world. The winner gets to enjoy all the benefits. Taking others by force was the right thing to do. Gu Mingming wrinkled her nose. Can we play happily? TSK. Elvis returned to Gu Mingming's side and protected her in his arms. His warm palm caressed her stomach. I may not be strong enough, but I will not let anyone bully my female. Unless Xiao Meng is willing, no one can force her. Leah secretly panted for a long time at an angle that Gu Mingming could not see, before forcefully suppressing the fishy taste in his throat. Warming up his facial muscles, he changed into a wretched look and pounced into Gu Mingming's arms, pretending to cry. Sob, sob, sob. Mingming, look at this snake. He always bullies me. So scared that my little heart is thumping nonstop. As he spoke, Leah pulled Gu Mingming's little hand into his arms and pressed it against his chest. Yeah, I want Mingming to rub it. Gu Mingming knew that although Leah had been stuck at the peak of 3rd level for a long time, not leveling up meant not leveling up. Snake's beast pressure had suppressed Elvis to such a state, and to Leah, the pain was more than doubled. So she didn't stop him. Instead, she followed his words and gently rubbed his chest with her little hand. Does this make you feel better? Leah was also taken aback. He just did not want Mingming to worry. But how could he bear to remove this disguise when she was so gentle? His furry big tail circled behind Gu Mingming's waist, supporting her body. Actually, it was him hugging her, but it looked like he was acting coquettishly in her arms. Elvis retreated and took over the snake skin from Gu Mingming's hands to start making her underwear. Chapter 576. Leah glanced sideways, his long and narrow eyes sweeping across Snake. He smiled faintly and said, I told you long ago to get along well with us, but you just wouldn't listen. Gu Mingming poked Lee's chest and said, You can't beat him in a fight, and you still have a cheap mouth? Leah held Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed it gently. So what if I can't win? With you protecting me, he won't kill me. If he's injured, you'll feel sorry for him. I can't wait for him to hit me every day. Gu Mingming smiled and pinched Leah. I knew you were a masochist. Leah smiled flirtatiously. I only do this to you. With that, Leah placed his hand on Gu Mingming's abdomen and rubbed it slowly. Will it feel better like this? After all that, it seems like the blood is flowing even more fiercely than before. Gu Mingming glanced at Elvis, who was openly making panties, and suddenly stopped what he was doing. His blue eyes were filled with worry. Snake, who was standing a distance away, did not have any expression on his face, but his eyes were fixed on her. The vixen in her arms stared at her as if she wanted to write the 5,000 years of infatuation of China on her face. Suddenly, there was a feeling that the whole world had quietened down, waiting for her words. Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly and said, Sigh, women are always like this. I'm already used to it. It's nothing. It's nothing. Elvis remained silent and lowered his head to continue making panties. Snake no longer cared about what Elvis would do with his precious snakeskin. It would be better if it was used on her. However, when he thought about how she had to bleed like this every month, he felt inexplicably frustrated. I heard that snake meat is very nutritious. Snake lowered his head and looked at the colorful snakes by his feet. He picked the fattest and most tender one and held it in his hand. Ask the fox to stew this snake to nourish you. Gu Mingming looked at Snake in shock. Do you know what that feels like? Then one day, your boyfriend says, "Baby, you lose a lot of blood every month. It's too bad for your body. In the future, I'll kill someone every month and stew it for you to nourish your body." The feeling of. Gu Mingming pointed at Snake with trembling hands and said, "You are the Snake King. Those are your people." Snake replied indifferently, "That's right, so I can kill and stew whenever I want." Gu Mingming shook her head. No, you know I'm scared of snakes." Snake frowned and looked at the colorful snake. He thought for a while and said, "The fox is very good at cooking. When he is done stewing it, you shouldn't be able to tell that it is a snake." Gu Mingming was really speechless. Snake's way of recognizing people was really unique. Although Leah could not defeat him, he did not expect his culinary skills to be so well known. Elvis was very familiar with making clothes. He only used a small portion of snake skin to make a small underwear suitable for Gu Mingming. He measured it slightly to make sure that there was no problem with the measurements, before finally saying, "Xiao Ming doesn't like others to watch her wear her clothes. Both of you go out. Bring those snakes out as well." Snake raised his brows, clearly unconvinced. This was the Snake King Valley. Since when was it up to this weak wolf to give orders? However, Leah stood up seductively and walked past Snake. He smiled and said, "This is family relations. The first partner's absolute authority is second only to Gu Mingming." Aside from the topic. Chapter 577. Snake was taken aback. So, he could be considered as a member of Gu Mingming's family? Looking at Lee's wretched face, Snake understood that he meant that if he treated himself as the Snake King, they would not be able to do anything to him. But if he wanted to join Gu Mingming's family, he would have to follow the family rules. Snake did not say a word. He just silently turned around and walked out of the cave. A group of colorful snakes followed behind him, none of them staying behind to keep watch. Leah turned back and winked at Gu Mingming before following Snake out of the cave. Elvis pretended not to see the eye contact between Leah and Snake. He was not willing to accept that there was another powerful pervert in his family, one that he could never catch up to no matter what. If Snake was only a 5th-level peak orc, even if he was as strong as Wabi Eye, he dared to say that he would be able to catch up to him one day. But he was a beast king. That was not a gap that could be crossed by hard work alone. It required opportunity and bloodline, and he definitely did not have that kind of bloodline. He would not be able to stop Snake. With the difference in their abilities, Snake could totally kill him and Leah, then replace them and forcefully keep Gu Mingming by his side. Not to mention that no one in the Snake King Valley dared to covet Gu Mingming. Even in the entire beast world, no one would dare to harm a single hair on Gu Mingming's head. But he didn't do that. He was even willing to let go of his pride as a king and comply with the family rules. He was Snake. He was the rule of the Snake King Valley. To put it in an arrogant way, he was the rule of the beast world. This meant that Gu Mingming was already very important to that snake. However, Elvis did not have the courage to ask Gu Mingming again, "Do you want to take him in as your partner?" He couldn't bring himself to ask this question. He was afraid to hear her answer. Therefore, he could only pretend to be deaf and dumb, pretending that he didn't notice anything. He helped Gu Mingming wear her snakeskin panties properly, then covered her with the sanitary pad that Leah had prepared. After cleaning up the bloodstains on her body, he gently kissed her forehead. Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around his neck and asked, "Hubby, is there something on your mind?" Elvis was taken aback. He looked into her eyes and forced a smile. "No, it's just that I haven't seen you for a long time, and I miss you a lot." Gu Mingming looked at Elvis apologetically and said, "I'm sorry, hubby. I always promised that I would not be willful in the future, but I still dragged you and Leah into such a dangerous situation. I really can't leave my son alone. As long as we successfully rescue him this time, I won't be willful in the future. I promise." Elvis kissed her little mouth lovingly and pressed down the 3 fingers she had raised up. Indulging your willfulness and cleaning up the mess is what a first partner should do. But the more Elvis said, the more guilty she felt. Elvis pulled Gu Mingming's little hand and kissed it saying Snake did not forbid Leah and I from taking action. He even guided us to look for some hidden spots in the Snake King Valley. I guess he wants to help us find Huda and the rest. Chapter 578. Elvis smiled faintly. To be honest, he could understand Snake's thoughts. He was in a hurry to find those 3 wolf pups, not because he had any special feelings towards them, but because Gu Mingming would not give up until he found those 3 wolf pups. And while Snake allowed Elvis and Leah to search for the children in the Snake King Valley, he could also be helping Ellie hide the children. Not for any other reason, but because once the children were found, Gu Mingming's next obsession would become leaving. He gave her a promise and a bottom line, that the 3 children controlled by Ellie were safe, but she just could not find them. So, she had to stay here and continue searching. What if one day, Gu Mingming suddenly lost interest in children and thought it through? She could just have another nest. By then, he and Leah would be the second wave of persistence to keep Gu Mingming here. So, no matter how much Snake disliked them, he only used poison to control them to prevent them from escaping, but did not really have the intention to kill them. Or else, so what if he was a 5th-level beast? In front of a perversely strong fellow like Snake, he was too weak to withstand a single blow. The commotion in the cave did not escape the 2 people outside. Just as Elvis was thinking about how to reply to Gu Mingming, Snake and Leah had already walked back. But with them, there was no colorful snake pack. Gu Mingming was rather surprised, asking, "Where are your people? Not following them anymore?" Snake looked at Leah, then replied, "They were afraid that I would cook them for you to eat, so they ran away." Gu Mingming would be a fool to believe him. Just from the look he gave Leah, Gu Mingming knew that Leah must have said something to him outside the cave to convince him to remove the surveillance system. But if he did not expose it, why did he have to embarrass him? So Gu Mingming pretended not to understand and laughed. "See, a tyrant will most likely be deserted by his own people. Saying, 'I will eat you' for no reason. It must have scared away the people around him." Gu Mingming did not know that her unintentional joke had caused Snake to never say those words again in his life. Mingming. Leo wagged his tail and walked to Gu Mingming's side. "I was scared by him today. You have to sleep with me tonight." Gu Mingming looked at Snake and saw that he had no intention of objecting. She thought to herself that Leah had some tricks up his sleeves. He managed to tame Elvis and coax Snake too. TSK, TSK, TSK. A 3rd-level beast managing a 5th-level beast and a beast king so well. All right, then you can keep your son to sleep with me. Coincidentally, I'm craving warmth these few days. As Gu Mingming said, she opened her arms and waited for Leah to jump into them. But Elvis carried Gu Mingming up and said, "It's too cold here. It's not suitable for you. Come back with us for a few days." Gu Mingming instinctively looked at Snake. Snake was obviously unwilling, but he did not stop her. He just turned his face to the other side and remained silent. Was this tacit approval? Gu Mingming grinned and gave Leah 2 thumbs up. Leah lifted his chin proudly and wagged his large tail. "All right, let's go first." Snake must not have rested well while Gu Mingming was staying here. Take advantage of these few days to recuperate. Chapter 579. Leah smiled and said, 10 words. Gu Mingming looked at Leah with sparkling eyes and counted with her fingers, saying, "If you don't want people to know, don't do it." Leah was stunned for a moment. Then he shook his head while suppressing his laughter. He wanted to tell her directly, but wanted to know what other strange sentences she could come up with. So he coughed and said, "Guess again." Gu Mingming thought for a while and counted with her fingers for a long time. The sentences she could think of were either wrong or did not fit together. Finally, she shook her head and said, "Don't keep me in suspense. Tell me quickly." Leah smiled and said, "Distance makes the heart grow fonder. More haste makes waste." Gu Mingming thought for a while, then said with a helpless face, "You also think that I have something going on with Snake?" Leah nodded honestly and said, "Isn't his reaction the best proof?" Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "He has been lonely for too long and needs a friend." Leah smiled faintly and said, Do you know how many snakes there are in the Snake King Valley? Every snake here obeys him and worships him like a god. He's never alone. Gu Mingming wanted to say, how could snakes be the same as humans? But on second thought, snakes are the same kind, right? But that great man was already over 1,000 years old. No matter how much he loved him, this difference was still. People say that from 17 to 18-year-old lads to 87-year-old old men, they all like 18-year-old girls. But no one had ever said that an old demon over 1,000 years old would also like 18-year-old girls. Gu Mingming could not accept this age difference from the bottom of her heart. She shook her head and said, maybe he is just a little interested in me because of his mother. Leah seemed to have seen through Gu Mingming's doubts and sneakily placed his arm on Elvis's shoulder and asked, you think he is old? Gu Mingming was taken aback and shifted her gaze away awkwardly. She said, anyway, it's just nothing like that. Don't think too much. We are here to save our son. But Leah refused to let Gu Mingming off just like that. Instead, he asked as if he had discovered something interesting. Then tell me, what is your psychological range? Gu Mingming thought for a while and said, 3 to 5 years. That's a more ideal age difference. Leah asked, you're 18 this year, right? Gu Mingming shook her head and said, my birthday is in the first month. I should be 19 now. Leah nodded and asked, then guess how old are Elvis and I this year? Elvis's face darkened. Even though he could not emit his beast pressure due to the poison, he still exuded a murderous aura. But Leah did not care and urged, look at him. His face has darkened. Guess him first. Guess him first. When Leah said that, Gu Mingming suddenly realized this problem. She was King married and had 4 children, but she didn't even know how old her husband was. Let her calm down. A snake who looked like he was in his early 20s, but was actually over 1,000 years old, Wabi-Ai, who looked like he was no older than 20, was actually more than 800 years old than a 24, 25-year-old Elvis. What the hell? Did she really marry a great-grandfather? Gu Mingming's voice trembled as she asked, hubby, how old are you this year? Elvis looked at Leah coldly and said faintly, I forgot. Forgot. Chapter 580. Leah covered his mouth and chuckled. Ming, guess how old am I? Gu Mingming looked at Leah and eventually shook her head slowly. Damn it, the heavens are so unfair. Compared to Snake and Wabi-Ai, those 2 old demons, Gu Mingming no longer dared to judge a person's age based on their appearance. Leah moved his shoulder forward and leaned his handsome face in front of Gu Mingming. His voice was soft and magnetic as he said slowly, do you mind dating a younger brother? Gu Mingming looked at Leah in horror. She was 19 this year, and no matter how she thought about it, she felt that if there was a situation of an old cow eating young grass, she should be that young grass, right? Why did she suddenly feel like she was an old cow? Leah was a little disappointed. His tail drooped down, and he asked obediently, you can't accept it? It's not that different. Gu Mingming patted Lee's shoulder and asked, Leah, tell me honestly, how old are you this year? Leah smiled and squinted his eyes. Call me Daddy Leah, and I will tell you. Gu Mingming grabbed Lee's ear and pretended to twist it. If you still want her ear, tell me now. Leah pouted his lips with a wronged expression. 16. Crack. Gu Mingming felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck her head. She slowly released her grip and looked at Leah with a complicated gaze. How long had she called a fox, who is 3 years younger than her, Daddy Leah? Leah was 16 this year, so wasn't he only 15 when he started dating her? Did this count? Gu Mingming's face fell. She felt that she was a wretched and shameless slut. But Leah covered his mouth and laughed. Isn't a young body much better than that old snake's? Gu Mingming looked up and wanted to shout scram. But when she met Lee's long and narrow eyes, and combined with his age, Gu Mingming could only swallow her anger and say gently, Leah, be good and go play at the side. Leah burst out laughing. Why do you sound like you're coaxing Huda and the rest when you say this? Don't tell me. You really want to acknowledge me as your son? And can I also eat it? Lee's gaze shifted towards Gu Mingming's chest. Gu Mingming covered her chest with both hands and shouted, Eat your sister. Little brat, you don't know what's good for you. You're taking advantage of me all day long. Leah laughed even harder. He tilted his head and said, You don't want to be my mother beast. You want to be my sister? Incest, what a heavy taste. But if you like, I can cooperate. Gu Ming Ming gritted her teeth. Being your mother is also incest. Leah nodded with a look of realization. He looked at Gu Ming Ming and said, So you like this kind of style? Gu Ming Ming really wanted to bite off her own tongue. Elvis said with a cold face, Don't mess with her anymore. She'll really get anxious later. Leah shrugged his shoulders and said, all right, don't be conflicted. I'm not 16. I'm 21. Gu Ming Ming glanced sideways and asked, Really? Leah nodded. Gu Ming Ming then heaved a sigh of relief. She suddenly looked up at Leah in a daze and asked, So, who is 16? Leah held back his laughter. Elvis's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Gu Ming Ming turned her neck stiffly and looked at Elvis. Tell me, you're not 16, please. Elvis cleared his throat and avoided Gu Ming Ming's gaze. I'm not 16. F asterisk asterisk asterisk. Chapter 581. Ever since she knew Elvis's age, Gu Ming Ming could not face him normally. She always looked at Elvis in a daze, but as long as Elvis dared to raise his head to look at her, she would immediately avoid him and become nervous. She was already used to letting Elvis take care of her, but now she was repulsed, such as changing sanitary pads. Elvis was vexed, and he found Leah to be an eyesore. But he knew that Lee's motive for doing so was to buy more time for Gu Ming Ming to stay in their cave. Because if Gu Ming Ming behaved too intimately with them, that pair of eyes staring at them in the dark would not be able to control their jealousy and immediately snatch Gu Ming Ming away from them. And now, they did not have the ability to snatch it back. They could only interact once a month, so he could only endure Gu Ming Ming's awkwardness and control his eyes to not look at her. Then he used every cell in his body to feel her gaze. A week passed by very quickly. When the colorful snakes appeared at the entrance of the cave, Leah and Elvis's eyes dimmed, but they still hung a smile on their faces. They said to Gu Ming Ming, Snake has sent someone to fetch you. Follow these little snakes, and they will bring you back to Snake's Cave. Gu Ming Ming nodded her head. Gu Ming Ming knew that she felt awkward after knowing Elvis's age, so she did not have the chance to be intimate with Elvis during the rare time they spent together. He felt a little apologetic, but also a little reluctant. So she endured her awkwardness and walked to Elvis. She hugged him and said, Elvis, can you send me over? I want to stay with you a little longer. Elvis's body stiffened for a moment before he dared to hug Gu Ming Ming back. You're not allowed to not love me, no matter the reason. Gu Ming Ming pursed her lips and mumbled, It's not that I don't love you. It's just that I feel like I've harmed a minor. Elvis bent down and kissed Gu Ming Ming's lips. He gave her a peck on her lips and said, Orcs are considered adults when they can transform into human form. I have been an adult for 15 years. Gu Ming Ming looked at Elvis in shock, blinking her eyes without saying a word. Becoming an adult at the age of 1. Who the hell are you kidding? Gu Ming Ming thought. What was she doing when she was 1 year old? I can't remember at all, but look at other people's 1-year-old children. They're still sitting in their strollers and biting on their pacifiers. Are you pretending to be an adult in front of me? Elvis knocked Gu Ming Ming's little head with his hand and said, Orcs, timescales and growth patterns are different from your side. Don't compare them recklessly. Gu Ming Ming rubbed her head in dissatisfaction. What's the difference? A little wimp will always be a little wimp. Elvis gritted his teeth and said, Little brat can't make you pregnant, but I can. Gu Ming Ming blushed and stomped her feet. She turned around with her back facing Elvis, but did not walk away. The words hurry and coax me, I'm angry, were clearly written on the back of her head. Leah also knew that Gu Ming Ming's awkwardness these few days had made Elvis feel uncomfortable. So he came out to smooth things over. Elvis is right. After an orc transforms, it means that he has reached adulthood. Moreover, the length of our lifespan should not be different from that of your world. Gu Ming Ming glanced sideways and asked, Yeah, all of you can live up to 1,000-years-old monster, but I can't. Chapter 582. Gu Mingming did not understand and tilted her head to wait for Leah to continue. Leah saw that Gu Mingming was no longer angry at Elvis's words and did not keep her in suspense. He continued, "Under normal circumstances, a fifth-level beast like Elvis can accompany you for the rest of your life, as long as you don't eat him. As for a third-level beast like me, even if I don't die in battle or get eaten by you, I can only live for about 30 years. I'm 21 this year, and if I take good care of myself, Gu Mingming, I can still accompany you for 10 years. Gu Mingming was stunned, and her expression turned solemn. 10 years. Was Li's life already starting to count down? Gu Mingming bit her lower lip and asked timidly, "You are lying to me, right? How can there only be a 30-year beast? The people in my world look much weaker than you guys, and it's not a problem for them to live to 70 or 80 years old." Leah smiled brightly, as if he did not care about death. He said calmly, "Males who are not accepted by females are equivalent to being eliminated weaklings. There's no need for them to exist. So normally, males who are over 10 years old and have not found a partner will voluntarily join the family of some females to become food reserves. To them, being able to let the females they like survive the harsh winter is the greatest value of their lives." Gu Mingming said, "But I have accepted you. Aren't you my beast pet?" Leah chuckled and could not hide the envy in his eyes. He looked at Gu Mingming's exposed collarbone and said, "An acceptance without a mark will not be acknowledged by the beast deity. But it's all right, even if it's only 10 years. I will still protect you well." Hiss, 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 the little snake made a urging sound. Gu Mingming wanted to say something, but Leah rubbed her head and said, "Don't pity me so easily. I don't think a 10-year life is as miserable as Snakel's long and unfocused life. Unless you plan to abandon me in these 10 years. Gu Mingming shook her head. She had mixed feelings and did not know what to say. Hiss, 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 the colorful little snake raised its upper body and the urging became even more obvious. Leah and Elvis exchanged glances and nodded. He gently turned Gu Mingming's shoulders and pushed her towards the entrance of the cave. "If you don't leave now, Snake will never let you come back to stay in the future. But, no buts, Elvis and I will continue to work hard for Huda and the other two. I will see to the food and try to make it as exquisite as possible for you. If there's anything you want to eat, you can tell the little snakes in the cave. They'll tell me." When she turned back, Leah and Elvis were already standing side by side at the entrance of the cave, watching her leave. Gu Mingming hung her head dejectedly and did not say anything else. She just followed the colorful little snake towards Snake's cave. She was still afraid of snakes, so she didn't dare to get too close to them. The little snakes seemed to know that she was afraid of them, so as long as she did not leave a certain range, they would not show any dangerous movements. Gu Mingming. A female voice sounded in the middle of the journey, blocking Gu Mingming's path. Looking up, Gu Mingming squinted her eyes. There was a female standing against the light at a high place. She could not see her face clearly, but her voice sounded familiar. Chapter 583. Who are you? Gu Mingming used one hand to block the sunlight and asked with squinted eyes. That female laughed coldly, then pulled the vine in her hand and said, "You can't recognize me, and can't recognize your own sons?" Gu Mingming could tell that the 3 balls were her sons just by looking at the shadows against the light. Ellie. Gu Mingming was very surprised. She should have been able to recognize from the voice, but the female standing in front of her was clearly a complete female and did not have that iconic snake tail. This made her stunned for a moment. Gu Mingming wanted to run to Ellie's side, but the colorful little snakes blocked her way. Gu Mingming looked at her sons, hardened her heart, and stepped on the pile of snakes. Now, even if it was a landmine blocking her way, she would step on it without hesitation, much less snakes. Ellie's lips curved slightly, turned around, and ran. Gu Mingming saw that Ellie had run away and was even more anxious. She chased after her without a care for anything else. Sons, her sons. If she let Ellie run away this time, she did not know when she would be able to see her again. Ellie did not run far. and seemed to be intentionally waiting for Gu Mingming to chase after her. Every time Gu Mingming almost could not catch up, she would slow down and wait for her. She did not run far, but just in a more winding direction. After chasing after her for a few turns, Gu Mingming could not tell north from south. Ellie stopped in her tracks and finally turned around to look at Gu Mingming. With a disdainful expression, she said with disdain, "You really dared to chase after me alone. You did not learn your lesson after being tricked. How did such a stupid female get chosen by the beast deity to become a messenger of the beast deity?" Gu Mingming placed both hands on her knees. She really wanted to say a few tough words to rebuke Ellie, but after coming to the beast world, she was almost in a state where she did not bring her legs out. When Elvis was around, Elvis would carry her. When Elvis was not around, Leah would carry her. When they reached the Snake King Valley, Elvis and Leah were not around, so Snake started to carry her. She seriously lacked training. If not for chasing after her sons, she would not have been able to persist till here. TSK, TSK, TSK. So useless. You only ran a few steps, and you're already panting like this. I really don't know what the mighty Snake King sees in you. Is it just because of this face? Ellie did not seem to be afraid of Gu Mingming. She casually threw away the vines that bound the three little wolves and walked in front of Gu Mingming. She pinched Gu Mingming's chin and sneered, "You don't even have a single male beside you. I'd like to see how capable you are as the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Mingming wanted to push Ellie's hand away, but realized that compared to this scheming bitch, the difference in physical strength between her and herself was too great. It was easy to beat Nina because she was an arrogant female. She had been pampered since birth and had almost no chance to train, let alone fight. That was why Gu Mingming, who had learned some basic fighting skills and persevered in working out, could win so easily. However, Ailey was different. She had lived in the Snake King Valley since young and was able to distinguish herself from the other females to become the Sacred Maiden. She did not just rely on her scheming ability to pretend to be a little white flower. Chapter 584. While Ellie was in pain, she quickly transformed her snake tail. The tip of the tail was covered in scales, wrapping around Gu Mingming tightly, as if she was strangling her prey. Her pupils became a straight line, her eyes filled with venom. Gu Mingming, you deserve to die. You deserve to die. Jealousy made Ellie's face contort. She completely disregarded her own fingers and even used more strength, directly breaking her own fingers in Gu Mingming's hands. Then, she strangled Gu Mingming's neck with her bleeding hand, saying harshly, "I coaxed him for over 100 years, but he did not even look at me once. Why did he surround you the moment you appeared? He should have killed you the moment you entered the Snake King Valley, and not let you replace me as the most respected female in the Snake King Valley. You deserve to die. Gu Mingming, you deserve to die." Gu Mingming wanted to struggle, but her entire body was wrapped tightly by Ellie. She could even clearly feel the pain from suffocation disappearing from her ankles upwards. Looks like she cannot save it. Gu Mingming could only move one hand. She raised it in front of her and poked at Ellie's eye. Ellie did not expect Gu Mingming to have such an evil move and was caught off guard. Although she dodged instinctively, one of her eyes was still poked by Gu Mingming. When a person was in mortal danger, that kind of explosive power was shocking. One of Ellie's eyeballs was skewered on Gu Mingming's finger like octopus. Ellie let go of Gu Mingming in pain, covering her eye and rolling on the ground. Gu Mingming lost her center of gravity and fell onto the ground, panting heavily like a fish that had been stranded. The eyeball in her hand made Gu Mingming feel disgusted, but she could not think so much at this moment. She shook her hand with all her might and flung the eyeball off her hand. She tried to stand up and realized that her leg was in a strange and peculiar position, as though it was in a spiral state. As expected, it was broken. Gu Mingming was glad that after the pain reached an extreme, she was now numb to pain. Even if she had to crawl to her son's side, or at least untie the vines on her son's body so that they could escape. As long as her son was fine, she would not hesitate even if she had to sacrifice her life, let alone crippling her legs. Blood followed the path Gu Mingming took, drawing a bloody meandering line on the ground. Gu Mingming grabbed onto the grass on the ground and moved her body forward with all her might. Her goal was very clear, her son. She wanted to save her son. One step, just one more step. Gu Mingming's fingers were about to reach Huda, and she saw Huda and his brothers opening their mouths, as if they were desperately trying to say something to her. Gu Mingming could only hear the sharp chirping in her ears. It was a pity that she could not hear her son's words. Don't be afraid. Mommy is here to save you. Don't be afraid. Mummy is here. As Gu Mingming spoke, she smiled at the three pairs of terrified and helpless eyes. She used all her strength to comfort her sons. She had finally touched Huda. A smile blossomed on Gu Mingming's face, but before she could smile, her body was dragged backwards and she was dragged far away. Huda. Gu Mingming stretched out her hand. Her only wish now was to untie the vines on the children's bodies. Chapter 585. Gu Mingming raised her arm to block, but her tiny arm was no stronger than a straw under Ellie's shocking biting strength. Was she going to die? Was she going to die? That's right. How could a human fight against a demon? Wasn't it all because of that monkey that Trippiaka could obtain the scriptures alive? But her monkey was not by her side. Life started spinning in front of Gu Mingming's eyes. It was just a moment, but she saw herself transmigrating, being picked up by Elvis, dating Leah, breaking up, then becoming partners with Elvis and giving birth to children. Children, in the end, it's your mother who is too useless. She couldn't even save you once. The only regret is that I never heard you call out once, Mummy. The clear voice beside her shocked Gu Mingming. With her eyes widened, Gu Mingming saw three half-orc young men trying their best to hold Ellie back. One used his fangs to bite onto Ellie's snake tail, dragging her backwards. One rode on her back, locking her neck, and trying his best to twist it backwards, while the last one was biting onto Ellie's throat, not retreating at all even though blood was sprayed all over his face. Just now who called out to her? Gu Mingming's eyes reddened, and she started crying. The pain from her leg being crushed did not even make her cry. But now, because of the word mummy, her tears flowed. No more regrets. She had no more regrets. Her sons broke free from the vines and could escape. Before she died, she also heard the word mummy that she yearned for even in her dreams. Gu Mingming struggled to sit up to help her sons fight against Ellie, but she saw her suddenly transform into her beast form, instantly becoming thicker and more solid. Her snake scales were hard. The three half-orcs who had just evolved could not bite through her scales. The three sons were flung away, their mouths full of blood. Ellie's eyes seemed to be red. She opened her mouth wide and charged towards Huda and his brothers, looking as if she wanted to swallow them whole. No! Gu Mingming screamed her lungs out. She wanted to rush over to her son's side to protect them, but her leg bones were crushed into pieces. She could not even move a single step. Ellie's body suddenly froze, and she was in a trance for a moment. Gu Mingming thought that her screams had worked, so she hurriedly continued, Ellie, don't you hate me? Am I not the one who deserves to die? Come at me. I'm right here. Come over. Ellie shook her body and exposed her head. He looked extremely terrifying as he looked at Gu Mingming with a malevolent expression, his gaze vicious and twisted. He wanted to save you. He actually used his identity as the Snake King to save you. I am his clansman. I am his saintess. I am the one who has guarded him for over 100 years. Can't you go against your innate nature? Why not? He. I'm going to resist for him to see. I want him to remember me, even if he hates me. With that, Ellie charged towards Gu Mingming without a care in the world. Gu Mingming could clearly see that with every inch Ellie moved forward, a few scales would fall off her body. By the time she reached Gu Mingming, she had already turned into a skinless, bloody worm. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Ellie bit onto Gu Mingming's thigh, then twisted her body in a twisted position, almost twisting Gu Mingming's leg off. Gu Mingming screamed, even though she could not feel any pain. Half a second before Gu Mengming's leg was torn off, a hand grabbed on the back of Ellie's head fiercely by 3 inches. Ellie's lower jaw was forced to loosen, and Gu Mengming's leg was saved. Aside from the topic, was this considered a literary stupidity? But I didn't do it on purpose. Who saved Gu Mengming? Chapter 586. The person who had come was Snake? Gu Mengming had thought that Elvis would be the first to rush over. After all, they had the mating mark to guide them. She was injured to this extent, so Elvis must have already known. But why wasn't he the first to come? Could she not see him for the last time? Gu Mengming's consciousness started to drift away. The heaviness of her eyelids and the coldness of her body became an irresistible whirlpool that pulled her in. Snake looked coldly at the bloodied worm in front of him. Without a word of nonsense, he squeezed his fingers and strangled her to death. Turning around, Snake carried Gu Mengming. The sagging curve of her legs made him frown. He had imagined more than once that Gu Mengming was a snake like him. How perfect the scene would be. But now, she looked so ugly with her limp lower body. It was no wonder that she hated snakes. Such an unbearable scene should be hated by others. Snake carried Gu Mengming back to the entrance of his cave. Elvis and Leah were lying there with wounds all over their bodies. Snake stopped in his tracks and looked at Elvis. He threw out 2 words calmly, so weak. Elvis clenched his teeth and did not say a word. He had no right to retort. A pair of bloodshot eyes landed on Gu Mengming, who was in Snake's arms. He felt as if something in his chest was being sliced off piece by piece and then rubbed repeatedly with salt. A string of blood droplets dripped down from the side of Elvis's mouth. He had clenched his teeth so hard that it was bleeding. Snake glanced at Leah and said, "Turn my snake skin into clothes for her to wear." With that, Snake did not explain further and entered the cave. The colorful snakes quickly coiled together and sealed the entire cave entrance. And Gu Mengming, who was in the cave, was already in a state of deep unconsciousness. In the white world, Gu Mengming seemed to be floating without gravity. She was surrounded by fog, but it did not make her feel pressured. Instead, it made her feel very comfortable and relaxed. "Child, you are very impressive." A kind voice rang beside Gu Mengming's ears. Who are you?" Gu Mengming felt someone caressing her hair. The action was gentle and loving. She wanted to know who was talking to her, but her throat could not make any sound, and her eyelids were so heavy that she could not open them. "I am the beast deity." That person seemed to have heard the voice in Gu Mengming's heart and directly gave the answer. "Beast deity?" Gu Mengming was confused. "Beast god. Yes, I am the beast god. My child, the road ahead of you may be rough, but please keep a kind heart." Gu Mengming did not understand and asked in her heart, "What do you mean?" The beast deity chuckled. "I'm sorry to have disrupted your original life. You must have been very helpless when you first arrived in the beast world. But now, you have Elvis and Leah who love you, as well as Saint Nazir tribesmen who are loyal to you. In the future, you will have more and more followers by your side. Your words, actions, and way of thinking will influence the beast world for the next 1,000 years. So, don't lose your benevolent heart, understand?" Gu Mengming's mind was filled with question marks, but she could not form a proper question. She just felt muddle-headed. The beast deity continued, "Child, do not be sad, do not be sad. You have bestowed upon him the greatest release." Chapter 587. Ugh, Gu Mengming moaned, feeling a splitting headache. Xiao Meng. A warm embrace immediately hugged Gu Mengming. Then, Gu Mengming heard the deafening heartbeat gradually calming down, as well as a sigh of relief after surviving calamity. Gu Mengming opened her eyes, gradually adapting to the light in front of her. She raised her hand, feeling a little lost. Dream realm, so that was what it meant. "Elvis, let go of me." Gu Mengming's voice was so calm that it was frightening. Elvis's body stiffened, but he still slowly released his hand. She should be angry. As her first partner, he did not fulfill his responsibility to protect her. Gu Mingming turned around and sat up, looking at her 3 sons who were sleeping in a ball in the corner. They looked exhausted. They must be exhausted. Gu Mingming took up the bee skin that was covering her body and gently covered her 3 sons. Then she walked out without saying a word. Elvis followed behind her quietly, the silence spreading in the air. Do you know, how does it feel to fall in love with yourself? Gu Mingming's gaze landed on the flat, big rock at the entrance of the cave. There was a set of clothes made from snake skin drying there. Elvis did not say a word. He just quietly stared at the dark green snake behind Gu Mingming's neck, baring its fangs. Gu Mingming sat on the rock, staring at the set of clothes made from snake skin in a daze. The person who would reach out his hand and call her Tu Ming had now turned into a set of clothes. I thought I was just an interesting existence in his long life. But I never thought that I was the only color in his 1,000-year life. Gu Mingming lowered her head, smiling bitterly. He was really decisive. He actually used such a method to let me truly feel his care and persistence towards me. Gu Mingming did not turn back. Her eyes were still fixed on the set of snake skin. Her voice was calm, without any great sorrow, but made one's heart ache. Do you know what the last sentence he said to me was? Elvis stood behind Gu Mingming. He did not even have the courage to reply. If not for him being too weak, he said that taking liberties with a married woman would really incur the wrath of the heavens. He would cut open his chest and take out his gallbladder. Gu Mingming did not cry. Instead, she smiled. Then, he told me thank you. He said, thank you for letting me live. He died for me, and now he's thanking me for letting him live? What kind of twisted logic is this? But now, I can't even blame him. Gu Mingming clutched her chest tightly and said, what should I do? I actually felt his love for me so deeply, but we had only been together for a mere month. In this 1 month, I never thought that his feelings towards me were love. I am Gu Mingming. I feel that I should feel guilty and cry. But Snake had passed all of his memories to me. In his memories, this last month was far more blissful than that long 1,000 years. His senses told me that as long as I lived, he was happy. So I wanted to laugh again. Now, I can't even tell if I'm Gu Mingming or Snake. Am I a human or a snake? Should I cry or laugh? Elvis went forward and gently hugged Gu Mingming in his arms, saying deeply, I'm sorry, I couldn't protect you. I was too weak. Digression. Chapter 588. Gu Mingming wanted to lift her arms to hug Elvis back, but she felt her wrists were so heavy that she could not lift them. Sighing, Gu Mingming said, Elvis, let go of me. I want to wear the clothes Snake left for me. Elvis slowly let go, feeling a pain as if a layer of skin had been peeled off from his chest. Gu Mingming had always been protective of her privacy and only changed her clothes in the cave. Most of the time, even he had to avoid her. But this time, she actually stood in an empty space and took off the bee skin she was originally wearing. Then, she carefully put on the clothes made from snake skin. Gu Mingming tilted her head and asked, Does it look good? Elvis nodded and said, Xiaoming looks good no matter what you wear. Gu Mingming wanted to smile, but realized that she could not. She sat back on the rock and squinted her eyes at the sun. Where's Leah? I haven't seen him since I woke up. Elvis said, he has some debts to settle. Gu Mingming asked Cole. Elvis remained silent and did not say a word. Gu Mingming said, even if Cole broke his tail, he is still a 5th-level beast. Just Leah alone cannot defeat him. With that, Gu Mingming looked into the distance and said, Go find Leah for me. Tell him that I am waiting for him and ask him to come back. Elvis followed Gu Mingming's gaze and saw a rustle in the bushes. If one did not look carefully, they would think that it was just the rustling of grass in the wind. But a 5th-level beast's eyes were extremely good. He saw traces of colorful snakes in the bushes. You? Elvis was confused. Gu Mingming lowered her head and did not look at Elvis's eyes. She just gently touched the back of her neck and said, Sorry, I promised that I would only leave your mark on my body. But, Elvis said, Xiaoming, Snake is the strongest among the kings. I did not have any objections to you mating with him. Gu Mingming shook her head and said, Snake did not mate with me. This mark is a protection mark, not a mating mark. Elvis frowned and asked, Protection mark? Gu Mingming nodded her head almost imperceptibly and said, I was killed by Ellie and my bones were all broken into pieces. Even if I was saved, I would be half paralyzed and probably won't be able to stand up again. Moreover, Ellie's final bite was a self-inflicted poison. Even Snake would not be able to remove it in a short period of time. So, he used the simplest and most violent way to solve this problem. Elvis was silent. He did not know the whole story. He only knew that after Snake carried Gu Mingming back that day, the colorful snake blocked the entrance of the cave. When the snakes dispersed, there was only an unconscious Gu Mingming and a huge snake skin left in the cave. Gu Mingming calmed herself down and continued. He cut open his own chest and took out his own snake gallbladder to detoxify and prolong my life. Then he poured 1,000 years of his cultivation into my body. Apart from the snake slew, everything else was concentrated on this mark. Oh, even the snake skin is on me now. Gu Mingming said, Do you know why he branded the mark on the back of my neck? Elvis shook his head. With Snake's arrogance, he should have branded the mark on Gu Mingming's chest and occupied that position. Chapter 589. Gu Mingming replied, Because he wants to guard my back to prevent anyone from sneaking up on me. He said, he wants to be the pair of eyes that are open behind my back. Gu Mingming glanced sideways at Elvis and asked, Isn't it funny? He's already dead and he's still talking about guarding. It's just a mark, what can he guard? Elvis was silent for a moment before he stretched out his right hand and transformed it into a wolf claw, before suddenly attacking the back of Gu Mingming's head. With a scream, Elvis fell to the ground. His wolf claw was covered in black venom, and his skin started to corrode instantly. Gu Mingming turned around and frowned. She flipped over and jumped down, grabbing Elvis's hand and placing it beside her mouth. Then, she gently licked the venom on it. Gu Mingming's little tongue easily cleaned up the venom and at the same time formed a transparent layer on Elvis's hand. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis quietly and did not say a word. But Elvis smiled and said, Look, although it's just a mark, he can still guard your back. Gu Mingming sighed and said, Don't do such silly things to punish yourself. You didn't let me down, and you've already done enough. Elvis looked down and said sadly, But I didn't manage to guard you. Gu Mingming said, It's not your fault. In the end, it's the result of my willfulness. Elvis sat up straight and hugged Gu Mingming in his arms again and said, I swear, I will become stronger, and never let you get hurt again. Gu Mingming smiled bitterly and said, Now, I have inherited everything from Snake, including his battle abilities and memories. In the entire beast world, I'm afraid no one can hurt me anymore. Elvis was stunned and said, You mean? Gu Mingming nodded and touched the mark on the back of her neck again and said, Snake has already merged with me as one. He gave everything to me, and he gave it very thoroughly. Elvis smiled bitterly and said, This should be considered a good thing. You don't have to worry about anyone plotting against you anymore. You also don't need me anymore. Gu Mingming hugged Elvis back gently and pursed her lips, saying, I've aged 1,000 years in one night, and I'm still not used to many things. But there's one thing I know, you're my family, and I'll need you no matter what. Elvis did not say a word and just hugged Gu Mingming back gently. Neither of them said anything. A violent sound came from afar, and it was rapidly approaching. Gu Mingming stood up and turned to face him. A huge python appeared in front of Gu Mingming, its head that was as big as a train's engine stuck at the tip of Gu Mingming's nose. If it was in the past, she would have screamed, but now, she just looked up calmly and said, Didn't I tell you before, I hate snakes, I hate shit. I hate snakes that look like shit. With that, Gu Mingming slapped the snake's head, and the head, which was as big as a train, was slammed onto the ground with a loud bang, embedding about 1/2 meter into the ground. Wabi-Ai transformed back into his human form and stood up. He rubbed his chin and pointed at Gu Mingming's nose. Snake, I want to challenge you. Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes and sneered. You can't beat me. Wabi-Ai's eyes were red. He seemed to be suppressing his emotions as he roared. I don't care. I just want to challenge you. I want to defeat you and replace you as the master of the Snake King Valley. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, All right, you're the master of the Snake King Valley now. Aside from the topic, I've unlocked Gu Mengmeng's golden finger that all of you wanted. She now had all of Snake's powers, the powers of the only Beast King in the Beast world. She didn't need to rely on mating to protect herself. She could stare to death with just a stare, but I want to know, are you happy after unlocking this heaven-defying golden finger that all of you have been dreaming of? Chapter 590. Wabi-Ai roared, I don't need your charity. I want to snatch it myself. With that, Wabi-Ai attacked Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng just turned her body slightly and stepped on Wabi-Ai's back, causing him to lie flat on the ground. She looked down at Wabi-Ai from above and said coldly, You are so annoying. Wabi-Ai's eyes turned red, but not because of anger. He rolled and transformed into a giant python to attack Gu Mengmeng again. Elvis wanted to join the battle, but was stopped by Gu Mengmeng with a hand gesture. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and looked at Elvis, saying, This is what Snake owes him. I should repay him. Don't interfere. With that, Wabi-Ai's poisonous fangs were right in front of Gu Mengmeng. That gaping mouth had already enveloped Gu Mengmeng. One bite, and Gu Mengmeng would be swallowed into his stomach. Then, the next second, the giant python landed on the ground with a thud, accompanied by a cloud of dust. The entire world was shaking, and everything became a blur. Wabi-Ai was like a lifeless noodle being squashed flat on the ground. Elvis was not spared either, as he was pressed flat on the ground, unable to move. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and retracted her beast pressure. She walked in front of Wabi-Ai and kicked him, saying so weak. Wabi-Ai slowly transformed back into human form, but did not stand up. He just sat cross-legged on the ground and lowered his head, murmuring, Thank you. Gu Mengmeng kept her ice-cold expression and also sat cross-legged beside Wabi-Ai, saying, I have already found my son. Tomorrow, I will leave. Although Snake has never cared about this Snake King Valley, but this place was formed because of him after all. I don't wish for the Snake King Valley to collapse just like that. You can defend this place, right? Wabi-Ai glanced sideways and met Gu Mengmeng's eyes. He immediately lowered his head and stared at his own shadow. This was the only way he could continue imagining that the person he was fighting with just now and the person sitting beside him talking to him was Snake. Since I did not win you, this Snake King Valley is still yours. If you want to defend it, you can defend it yourself. If you don't, Gu Mengmeng patted Wabi-Ai's shoulder. Snake actually cares a lot about you. Wabi-Ai stiffened his neck and turned to the other side, not looking at Gu Mengmeng. My ass. He only thinks about his own release and doesn't think about what I should do. I've lived for 800 years, and I've fought with him for 800 years. He was my only goal and role model. Now that he's gone, where should I go with my life? Gu Mengmeng sighed softly. She also knew that Wabi-Ai did not really want the Snake King Valley. He was just like Snake, too lonely. The duel became a strange way for them to care and communicate with each other. Even though Snake was the one who one-sidedly crushed Wabi-Ai every time, Snake had never killed him. Moreover, in the long 1,000 years without Gu Mengmeng, if there was anything that Snake could look forward to, it would probably be Wabi-Ai's frequent challenges. Gu Mengmeng remained silent for a moment before saying, Sorry. Wabi-Ai harumphed, but did not reply. Gu Mengmeng felt that some things had to be clarified, so she said, I know, you and Ellie, but Snake killed Ellie because of me. I'm very happy that you appeared today. At least the people he cares about did not all die because of me. Chapter 591. Perhaps she was affected by Snake's memories, but Gu Mengmeng found it hard to stir up too many emotions. As for Ellie, Gu Mengmeng did not wish to talk much about it. She just continued asking Wabi-Ai, Are you really not willing to stay in the Snake King Valley? Wabi-Ai's expression dimmed. Staying here to remind myself that I will never be able to surpass him? Gu Mingming looked at Wabi Ai quietly and sighed. Then what plans do you have for the future? Wabi Ai replied, Aren't you going back to St. Nazaire? Gu Mingming nodded. Wabi Ai said, I will go back with you. Gu Mingming raised her brows and looked at Wabi Ai. You know I hate. Wabi Ai jumped to his feet and said, Didn't you inherit everything from Snake? Everything from him includes my challenge. Let me tell you, unless I defeat Snake, you will have to answer whenever I challenge you. Gu Mingming stared at Wabi Ai. She knew that without Snake, he would be the most upset person. So, Gu Mingming snorted in disdain. You overestimate yourself. Wabi Ai stared at Gu Mingming in a daze. He did not speak for a long time. He just quietly sat beside Gu Mingming, frowning slightly. I know you hate snakes that look like shit. I will try my best not to reveal my true form in front of you. As long as you occasionally speak to me in Snake's tone like you did just now, and fight me when I really cannot bear it. Gu Mingming chuckled. She stood up and dusted her hands. Then, she slapped Wabi Ai's back, sending him flying. She raised her head. So annoying. Turning around, Gu Mingming did not look at Wabi Ai's expression. She only heard him shouting behind her. Just you wait. One day, I will defeat you and throw you out of the Snake King Valley. Gu Mingming knew that Wabi Ai was crying. The three little wolves had long been woken up by the commotion outside. They wanted to come out to see Gu Mingming, but were stopped by Elvis. When Gu Mingming returned to the cave, she found it hard to express her feelings. Her son, who was not even a year old, was now standing beside Elvis and looking at her. He still had the body of a child and looked to be about 4 to 5 years old. Snake's inherited memories told her that the children's physical abilities were stimulated by the sight of her in mortal danger, forcing them to upgrade. This method of leveling up by spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm was harmful to the body itself. Gu Mingming caressed her son's faces and tried to confirm. You are Huda? The one who looked the most refined among the three nodded and stepped forward, calling out, Mother Beast. Gu Mingming forced a smile and said, I saw it. You were the first to transform and rush over with your 2 younger brothers. But next time, I hope you can run away with your brother. Because if not for Snake's timely arrival, the 4 of us would have died there. In such a situation where there's a great disparity in strength between us and the enemy, it's wiser to protect as many as you can. Understand? Huda shook his head and said, We are males. We have to protect the females in our family. If I can't even save my own mother, I might as well just die. Chapter 592. Kanwa's eyes were the most similar to Elvis's, the same deep blue. Gu Mingming touched her son's little face and said, Kanwu is such a brave child. But do you know, the blood of a snake is poisonous. You would have been poisoned yourself after biting Ellie's throat like that. If Snake had not given his blood to the 3 little ones while saving Gu Mingming, Gu Mingming would have to face the pain of losing her children the moment she woke up. Jiaoyu walked forward and hugged Gu Mingming's thigh. He looked up at his mother and said, Mother Beast, don't worry. I will think of ways to protect all of you in the future. I won't let my brothers get hurt again, and I won't let Mother Beast worry again. I want to be the smartest Jiaoyu of Mother Beast and live up to the name Mother Beast gave me. Gu Mingming kissed Jiaoyu's little face and gently stroked his furry ears. Jiaoyu is so sensible. Elvis carried Gu Mingming up and stared coldly at the 3 little wolf cubs. He had to say that these little ones really knew how to make Gu Mingming like them. He could not comfort Gu Mingming no matter how hard he tried, but she became much better with just a few words from these 3. The wolf cubs who could talk were much more threatening than before. But for the first time, he was glad that these 3 little wolf cubs were around. If they had not suddenly transformed and held Ellie back for a while, Snake might not have been able to save Gu Mingming in time. Your Mother Beast is tired and needs to rest. You guys go outside. Why? Kanwa took a step forward and glared at Elvis angrily. We want to stay by Mother's side to protect her. Elvis gritted his teeth. I will protect my own female. Kanwa did not back down. Is that so? Then where were you when she was in danger? Elvis's chest tightened. He clenched his fists tightly and could not say a word. Gu Mingming patted Kanwu's little head. Kanwu, you can't talk to father like that. Although Kanwu was indignant, he did not want to make mother angry. So he lowered his head. All right, mother, I understand. Gu Mingming squatted down and looked at her 3 sons at eye level. She said, your father is very brave. He and Leah risked their lives to clear Cole's trap so that Snake could successfully rush to the scene to save us. Although they did not appear, it did not mean that he did not do anything. So, you can't think of father like that, understand? Kanwu raised his head and looked at Gu Mingming, then at Elvis. I'll get my mother face and not argue with you. Elvis frowned. Why was this brat getting more and more annoying the more he looked at him? Huda pulled Kanwu back. Kanwu said, Kanwu, let's wait outside for Daddy Leah to return. Gu raised her. Gu asked. Gu. Gu said. Father Gu. And Gu. Gu Mingming found it funny. They did not call Elvis's daddy, but called Leah daddy. Gu Mingming found it funny. They did not call Elvis father, but called Leah father. Huda said, although he did not mate with mother, he is recognized by you and Father Beast. So we call him Father Leah. Gu Mingming nodded. Father Leah sounded different when it came from her in the children's mouths. Chapter 593. Gu Mingming turned around and looked at Elvis. She did not say anything and just pulled his hand. Elvis pulled Gu Mingming into his arms and kissed her hair. You have just recovered from your injuries. You still need to rest. Gu Mingming shook her head. My recovery ability is very good now. I don't feel anything strange anymore. Also, I don't want to sleep. Whenever I close my eyes now, Snake's memories will appear. Do you know, I can even see the previous messenger of the beast deity. Elvis lowered his head and gently rubbed Gu Mingming's temples. Not only did you inherit Snake's memories, you also inherited all the memories he inherited from his family? Gu Mingming nodded helplessly and said, yeah, but many of the images are very blurry. Maybe it was too long ago, so I can't remember them clearly. But Snake's memories and his father's memories are very clear in my mind. Then, I feel like I was a male who loved the previous messenger of the beast deity, and a male who fell in love with himself after being lonely for 1,000 years. Isn't it ridiculous? I'm even starting to suspect who exactly am I? Elvis's eyes were filled with heartache. He hugged and kissed Gu Mingming. You are my Xiao Meng, my queen. Gu Mingming's fingers gently touched Elvis's chest. The scar there had not completely faded. The healing ability of a 5th-level beast and a beast king was still very different. Does it still hurt? Gu Mingming asked. Elvis held Gu Mingming's hand that was rubbing the scar on his chest and shifted it to the left. Yes. Gu Mingming felt the heartbeat vibrating from her fingertips. She looked up and met Elvis's deep blue eyes. Pursing her lips, she said, I don't want to lie to you and say that I'm fine. After experiencing that nightmare, I woke up 1,000 years older. I am very confused and uneasy. I don't know how to face the fact that Snake sacrificed his life for me. But I promise I will slowly get better. Be it for you, for our sons, for Leah and the tribe, or for Snake. Elvis held Gu Mingming's hand and nodded. I know you will get better. You will definitely get better. Gu Mingming did not reply Elvis. She just looked up at the entrance of the cave. Now, her hearing was extremely good. Leah is back, Gu Mingming said. Elvis asked, you have something to tell him? Gu Mingming nodded and glanced sideways at Elvis, saying, I know I promised to only have you as my partner in this lifetime, but I now understand how persistent a male can be when he is in love. Snake had only known me for less than a month, but Leah had already been by my side for half a year. If you blame me. Elvis chuckled and did not let her continue. He just kissed her hair lightly and said, I will never blame you. No matter what you do, I will support you. Whatever you want, I will find it for you. Gu Mingming nodded, deliberating whether she should say sorry or thank you. After hesitating for a long while, Gu Mingming said, Hubby, I love you. Elvis curled his lips and said, I know. Besides, I love you too. With that, Elvis let go of Gu Mingming and left the cave after taking a deep look at her. Chapter 594. Leah was taken aback. Elvis had already brought the 3 children and walked far away. But Leah could not lift his feet to step into the cave. Congratulate me? Gu Mingming almost died, and he did not manage to catch Cole. Elvis brought his child away and congratulated him before he left. Gu Mingming was waiting for him in the cave. Congratulations. Congratulations for what? It was self-evident. But he did not dare to take that step forward. Afraid. How could he not be afraid? What if he was wrong again? What if it was an empty joy again? What if? Gu Mingming said that she did not want him again? The wisest man in the beast world. How ironic was this title now? What would he plan? He could not even protect the female he loved. Leah stood at the entrance of the cave like a statue. He stared at the cave as if there was a huge force of attraction that was drawing his gaze. But his legs were rooted to the ground and he could not move. Leah. Gu Mingming came out to welcome him. She stood 3 steps away from Leah. Unknowingly, Leah had an urge to escape. Let's mate. Gu Mingming took a step forward and reached out a hand to Leah. I don't want the 10 years of life you have left. I want you to accompany me for a long time. Leah did not say anything. He just took a step forward and grabbed Gu Mingming's wrist. He pulled her into his arms and hugged her tightly. He wanted to rub her into his bones and blood. Gu Mingming could clearly hear that Lee's breathing was trembling. Every cell in his body was boiling. But his throat was tightly locked, and he could not say a word. Gu Mingming hugged Leah back and gently placed her face on Lee's chest. She said, I did not understand in the past how decisive a male can be when he falls in love with a female. If I had known earlier, I would not have believed the nonsense about you and Nina. In the end, I did not trust you enough. But because of this reason, I tortured you for so long. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Leah shook his head and kissed Gu Mingming's lips. She was not wrong. How could she be wrong? She was his Mingming. It was his fault. It was his fault for thinking that everything was under control. It was his fault for putting her on the scale. It was his fault for not protecting her properly and letting go of her hand for so many inexplicable things. Torture? What kind of torture was that? She had never been able to harden her heart to him so that he would not collapse in despair. All the pain was his own fault. But she had been kind enough to hold his hand again and again in the abyss of despair. What did she do wrong? Why should he apologize? Leah carried Gu Mingming horizontally and strode into the cave. Leah placed Gu Mingming down gently on a beast's skin beside the fire. He flipped over and ran his fingers across Gu Mingming's little face, tidying the stray hair on her face. Mingming, is it really you? Gu Mingming held Lee's hand and placed it on her cheek. Her eyes reflected the light from the fire, bringing with it some warmth. In this world, who else dares to snatch my man? Leah smiled to hide the glint in his eyes. It's useless even if you snatch. You can't. Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Lee's neck. She pursed her lips and continued. I inherited all of Snake's abilities and am now a little poisonous person. If I mate with you, it might cost you your life, so I can only use another method to mate. Do you mind? Leah kissed Gu Mingming's lips deeply. He said in a hoarse voice, I don't mind being a beast pet for a lifetime. What else would I mind? Digression. There are 2 versions here. Babies who want to see Lee's digression can go to the VIP group to find a shared file. Babies who only accept 1v1 can read the main text. Verification group. 492779273. After entering the group, please contact the corresponding administrator to verify your fan value and enter the VIP group to see the other version. Chapter 595. Gu Mingming turned around and gently pushed Leah up. The 2 of them sat side by side. Gu Mingming's fingers were slightly cold. She pointed at Lee's brows and stared into his eyes. She confirmed once again, mating is the combination of 2 people's energies. I will extract a drop of your blood from your brows and send it to my heart. We can still complete the mating contract. If you want to regret, it's still not too late. Leah smiled gently and dotingly. He held onto Gu Mingming's wrist with one hand and hooked her chin with the other. Get me, possess me, then allow me to give you all my loyalty. Gu Mingming, do you know how long I've been waiting for this day? Gu Mingming returned a smile. She gathered the breath of the Beast King on her fingertips and pointed at Li's brows. A drop of blood hovered in front of Gu Mingming's fingertips. Gu Mingming slowly sent the drop of blood into her heart and into her body. Gu Mingming bit the tip of her tongue and took the initiative to cover Li's lips. A bloody kiss announced the completion of the mating process. Li's head was dizzy and his gaze started to drift off. Gu Mingming stood up and tidied up her messy clothes. She then gently caressed Li's sleeping face. She chuckled. I still dominated you in the end, but I don't want to be conflicted anymore. Who knows which will come first, tomorrow or an accident? I don't want to regret it anymore. Gu Mingming instructed the little snake to call Elvis and the children back. Elvis did not go far. He was guarding the entrance of the cave for Gu Mingming. Seeing the little snake, he brought the three little ones back. But the moment they entered the cave, Elvis was stunned. What situation was this? Gu Mingming was sitting there perfectly fine, but Leo was unconscious? Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly. That it? Elvis frowned and sighed. I told him not to listen so much. Look, he really can't listen anymore. Cough. Gu Mingming choked. She smiled awkwardly and did not reply. Bring Leah along. Let's set off. Qishuan's poison cannot be delayed any longer. Elvis picked Leah up with one hand and hugged Gu Mingming with the other. Then let's return to solder first. Gu Mingming nodded and did not say anything else. Once Elvis exited the cave, a large group of snakes followed behind him. At first, it was the colorful snakes, but the further they walked out of the valley, the more snakes followed, and the thicker they were. By the time they reached the entrance of the valley, even Wabi-Ai had caught up. Gu Mingming looked back and frowned. She was no longer afraid of snakes, but if she brought all of them out, the world would be in chaos. Gu Mingming patted Elvis, signaling him to put her down. He took 2 steps back and looked at the snake beast behind him. Seeing that Gu Mingming had stopped, the snake beast that could transform into human form did the same, while those that could not yet stood upright and looked at Gu Mingming attentively. Chapter 596. Saintis. One of the snake beasts took a step forward and said, What should we do after you leave? Gu Mingming scanned the crowd of snake beasts and realized that other than Wabi-Ai, there were almost no other orcs above the 3rd level. Was it because Snake killed Ellie and caused the mating contract to backfire? There was a gap in the number of powerful warriors in the Snake King Valley. No wonder Ellie dared to lay his hands on her. She gambled that Snake would not sacrifice the lives of more than half of the powerful warriors in the Snake King Valley for a dead Gu Mingming. Unfortunately, she lost. In Snake's eyes, nothing was more important than Gu Mingming. Thinking of Snake, Gu Mingming frowned and her heart ached faintly. After I escort the Saintess to Saint Nazir, I will come back to guard the Snake King Valley for him. Wabi-Ai took a step forward and transformed into a half-orc. His snake body stood erect and was at least 3 stories tall. He looked down at the crowd of snake beasts and asked, Any other questions? Gu Mingming glanced sideways and smiled faintly. She knew that the him Wabi-Ai was referring to was not herself, but Snake. The snake beasts all lowered their bodies to show their obedience. Wabi-Ai then transformed into a human again and stood behind Gu Mingming. Let's go. Gu Mingming nodded and led Elvis, Leah, Wabi-Ai, and the 3 buns out of the Snake King Valley. The moment they came out, they saw Ian standing guard at the entrance. He was already sick, but now he looked even more haggard. Gu Mingming walked forward and bit her finger. Then, she squeezed out a drop of blood and placed it on Ian's lips. It has been hard on you during this period. Ian was taken aback. He wanted to wipe off the blood on his lips, but realized that the blood had already seeped into his mouth. Moreover, it took effect quickly, and all the blood in his body seemed to have been ignited. That boiling feeling was painful, but also a form of release. The feeling of being unable to use any strength for a month was gradually disappearing. She neutralized the poison in him. Gu Mingming knew that Ian had many doubts, but she did not want to explain. She just said, Let's go to solder first. I will tell you the rest slowly. Ian didn't say a word and just followed behind Gu Mengmeng silently. He was wary and hostile towards Wabi-Ai. Wabi-Ai could not be bothered with him. A mere third-level bird, if Snake had not instructed him to keep it alive, it would have long become a dish in his stomach. He didn't want to compete with a meat dish. Gu Mengmeng's current physique was much better than before, so the group traveled much faster than before. That night, Leo woke up, rubbing his head. The first thing he did when he opened his eyes was to look for Gu Mengmeng. Turning his head, he realized that she was sitting beside the fire in a daze. Lee's gaze subconsciously softened. He propped himself up and sat beside Gu Mengmeng, wrapping his large tail around Gu Mengmeng's waist and calling out softly, "Mengmeng." Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways at Leah. After regaining her senses, she smiled and said, "You're awake." Lee's hand gently caressed Gu Mengmeng's little face. His gaze landed on her left ear, and he smiled in an extremely gentle manner. There was a snow-white fox lying on Gu Mengmeng's ear. Its head was on the earlobe, and its face was facing upwards. It looked as if it was running towards Gu Mengmeng's ear along the earlobe. Its large furry tail occupied the outer part of Gu Mengmeng's ear. It looked like an exquisite earring and was very lifelike. So, that wasn't a dream. That's great. Aside from the topic, you want to ask why Lee's mating mark was not on her heart, right? This is my final preference for my son. If Lee's mark was on her heart, what would Elvis do? Also, don't worry, Gu Mengmeng had enough self-protection abilities now. She didn't need to rely on mating to protect herself. So the males around her were only Elvis and Leah. There wouldn't be another one. As for Snake, who had left a mark on her neck, he was the zero that I had previously revealed in the group. 5 partners, you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.